Hey guys, it's Amara here, and today I thought that I would just share with you all of the books that I have read as an English major. So I did just graduate with an English degree in December, and that is still so crazy to me, but I was just looking at my bookshelves and I was like, oh my goodness, I've read quite a few of these for my English degree. So I thought that I would just share that with you guys. And I also would like to say that I have read a lot more than the books that I am showing you. I just genuinely either don't have them, I didn't purchase them, or I just can't remember which ones they are. Which I feel so terrible for saying that, but I just feel like you read so much in a short period of time, especially over like 4 years, that it's really hard to keep track of everything that you have read and even try to remember them. As an English major, you do read a lot of excerpts, so you don't actually read entire novels. So that's another reason why it might seem like I don't have a lot of stuff that I've read for my degree. But other than that, let's just get right into it. The first thing that I've ever read as an English major was The Oedipus Cycle, and let me just say, I genuinely cannot remember what these 3 plays are about. I remember reading them, and I remember writing my first ever college paper on this and just being so stressed out and like so scared I would get a bad grade. And I don't know, I didn't feel smart enough when I first went to college, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like, what am I reading? I was like, can I even comprehend this? But I definitely want to reread this because I keep seeing like references to the Oedipus Cycle whenever I'm reading other books, and I know when I hear these references, I'm like, I remember what that is. I just don't remember what it's about or what the context is. So I definitely want to brush up on my reading skills with this. The next plays that I read were for my Shakespeare class, which I took over in England during my study abroad semester, and I had to read King Lear, which I do not have. I actually don't think I've ever owned a copy of King Lear, but I do have Julius Caesar, Hamlet, and Romeo and Juliet, absolute classics. And I was so happy when I got to take this class over in England. It's an English major's dream. And I also wanted to say that I own all of these because every time I go thrifting, all of the thrift stores that I go to have such an abundance of Shakespeare plays. I don't know if that's a theme in any other location, but I was so glad that I've already had these before I went over to London, so I didn't have to buy them. And I know that you can just read them online, but it's just not the same. I like having the physical books in my hand because then I can just like draw on them, make notes, highlight, annotate, do all of that fun stuff. And I can't do that on a computer. It's just not the same. But I've had to read these 3 plays plus King Lear for my Shakespeare course. So the next 3 books that I had to read as an English major were for, it was like a literature theory class, I believe. I genuinely cannot remember. That class was such a fever dream for me because that was whenever everything got switched to remote. So things were just still quite a mess, and I just felt like I was living in a dream. I was going through the actions, but I can't remember what I was doing at all. But all 3 of these books are super modern and came out within like the last 5 years, I believe. So the first one that I had to read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Her writing style is it's just so groundbreaking, innovative, and overall just profound because she writes novels in poetry and prose. So every single page is a poem. Every single chapter is a collection of poetry and prose, and I do not know how she can fully capture these characters and details of their lives and overall characteristics, also while portraying character growth and like an entire plot just through poetry, because honestly the poetry in here is very short, but she somehow manages to create this entire fictional world with just so little words, and it is absolutely profound. I love this. And as a lover, writer, and avid reader of poetry, I was like, this is amazing. Like, who knew that you could write an entire novel in poetry, but with it actually being considered a novel and not like a collection of poetry, if you know what I mean. I highly recommend, and this is such a great young adult novel too for anyone who is like in middle school or high school. I would totally work this into my syllabus if I was a teacher. This is just absolutely amazing. The next book is by Tahira Mafi, and it is A Very Large Expanse of Sea. I bought a used copy off of Amazon, and it didn't come with the dust cover, so I do not have that. But I absolutely love Tahira Mafi. She's the author of the Shatter Me series. This book is about a young Muslim girl who is also coming of age, navigating her life through this new high school. She's having such a hard time though navigating with high school, and she's constantly getting bullied and being called like a terrorist. And she is having these like large hate crimes being committed against her because she is Muslim. And she really starts to blossom into this beautiful young woman whenever she starts actively participating in breakdancing, because it's always been like her little secret passion, but she starts to really rely on breakdancing as a form of expressing herself, which is so unique. And I've never read anything about breakdancing, and again, this is a fantastic young adult novel which I absolutely recommend. I cannot rave about this book enough, guys. The next book I'm going to show you was just my absolute favorite book that I read for this entire semester when I had that class, and I've never read anything like it, and it just, oh my goodness, let me just show you. It is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, and this book is so underrated. I've not heard anyone talk about it, and I'm quite offended no one has mentioned it in any of their booktube channels, book talk, bookstagram, whatever. Very upset, because this is a literary masterpiece for young adults. I absolutely love this. This reminds me of the novel The Hate You Give. And this book, oh my god. Oh, so basically it follows a young black girl in her high school, and she realizes that her best friend is missing and no one is doing anything about it, and she is very confused as to why people are not doing anything about it. And she goes on this journey to try and uncover the truth of her best friend's life and what happened behind the scenes that she wasn't aware of. And she's also trying to learn why the school district isn't doing anything. And that's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to spoil it, but just let me tell you, this book, I shed so many tears during this book. I think I read this in 2 sittings. It was just, I want to do like a review on this, but include spoilers, because I feel like I can't talk about this properly without giving spoilers. But this book, it broke my heart. This book just made me cry so much. And the sad thing is that this reflects reality. It reflects reality for a lot of children and women of color, and the issues that they face in law enforcement and the education system. And it's just, this book is just mind-blowing. Again, if I was a teacher, I would strongly encourage you to please somehow put this on your syllabus. This also, I feel like, definitely ties into critical race theory, but a lot of states have banned that, so guess you kind of can't include it. But I think that this is a must read for everyone. I love this. The next book that I had to read was Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, and I actually did not have to read this for an English class. It was for my creative writing class, and I had to write like a book review on it. But if you've taken any feminist courses during your time at college, then you probably know who Roxane Gay is. She is just a great scholar, feminist, woman of color. Absolutely love her. And this book is a collection of essays, and the book is, I believe, split up into 4 topics. No, I think maybe even more actually. The book is split into gender and sexuality, race and entertainment, politics, gender, and race. And then there's so much stuff within all of these essays that really help you think differently. And she also says a lot of stuff within these essays that kind of go against the cultural norm, which I strongly appreciate in this, because her feminist views are just coming from a place so personal and so relatable. It's overall hard not to like this book. And if you're thinking of getting into feminism or you want to learn more, then I definitely recommend this, because since it is split up into essays, you can probably read it faster than you would an average novel, just because if you have a short attention span like myself, then with every essay constantly changing topics, it's a lot easier to retain your focus. And this, I just absolutely love this. She talks a lot about stuff that's currently actively happening within media, within Hollywood, social media. I just overall absolutely adore this book. And you should also check out other works by Roxane Gay, because I love her. The next book that I had to read as an English major was actually for my undergrad thesis, and I had to read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. And as you can see, very noted up, very annotated, and amazing. I also thrifted this, and I just never, this was on my TBR pile, and then I finally had to read it my senior year of college, because I was writing my undergrad thesis on this. And yeah, I had to read The Bell Jar, and it was great. I also cried. All of these books make me cry. Why do all of these books make me cry? I don't know. But I know a lot of people have had to read The Bell Jar for their English degree, and I didn't take a class where I had to read this. I just took like my senior capstone. But yeah, this is a great read, and I strongly recommend. And this book depicts mental health and mental illness just so well and so truthfully. But yeah, I strongly recommend reading The Bell Jar if you are a fan of Sylvia Plath, and if not, you should still read it because it's great. The next books that I had to read were for my feminist fairy tales class, which was one of the best classes that I took as an English major, and I'm so happy that I got the chance to read some of these. I had to read poetry collection by Anne Sexton called Transformations. I'm very happy that I got to read this, and I did enjoy it. The next book that I had to read was The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, and again, I love The Bloody Chamber. This class really got me thinking about classic fairy tales and how they are honestly very sexist. And you know, as a kid and you are growing up with fairy tales and Disney, you don't really think of it like this, but as you get older and you have better critical thinking abilities, you really start to realize a lot of the harm that was originally produced and given to us at such a young age. So if you are into fairy tales, feminist fairy tales, definitely recommend The Bloody Chamber. The last book that I had to read was Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, and this is actually a graphic novel, and we only had to read one of these, but I loved the artwork in the first little snippet that we read, that I had to buy the entire thing. You know, it's just how it happens. But this is basically a graphic novel of 5 classic fairy tales, including Bluebeard, which is the one that we focused on for my class. And I absolutely love this. This has a feminist twist. So again, if you are into graphic novels and if you are into fairy tales, then I definitely recommend Through the Woods. This is just great, and the imagery in here is just so vivid. I love the artwork. I absolutely adore it. So I highly recommend. So I thought that I would conclude with the books that I had to read for class that totally and utterly kicked my ass. This was the heaviest reading amounts that I had to do throughout my 4 years of college. The reading load was insane, but again, my professor loved her, had her for like 5 other classes. She's just a saint, and this class taught me the most, I will say. And this class was definitely my overall favorite class that I took through my entire college career, and I am so happy that I was in an academic environment and finally got to learn about the Brontes. So I took a class on the Brontes, and let me just say, these really, oh man, I remember I took this, I think like, yeah, it was in like my sophomore, junior year of college, and I remember thinking, oh my god, are all my classes going to be like this? How am I going to do this? It would take me like 5 hours a day to read all of the chapters that I had to read for class. And I know the professor acknowledged how heavy the reading load was, but I'm so grateful that the reading load was heavy because I realized that I want to specialize in Victorian Lit. But that's besides the point. Let's get right into it. So the first book that we had to read was Wuthering Heights, and yes, this is so sticky noted. Oh my goodness, again, I thrifted this. I have 3 different copies of Wuthering Heights that I've thrifted because ever since I was in high school, I fell in love with Wuthering Heights, but it wasn't until I got to college that I kind of realized how to actually read it and analyze it to the point where I loved it even more. I love Wuthering Heights. I love Emily Bronte. This is so beautiful. If I could just teach a class and gush over the Brontes for the rest of my life, I would be perfectly content. So then, after Wuthering Heights, we got to read some Charlotte Bronte, you know? We got to read Jane Eyre, and she is a little hefty. This turned out to be my absolute favorite novel ever since I had to read this. I fell in love with this so much that I was debating getting a tattoo inspired by Jane Eyre on my body. Honestly, Jane Eyre, love her. Charlotte Bronte, love her. I just adore this book so much. And the next book that I had to read was Villette by Charlotte Bronte. Villette is one of Charlotte Bronte's most underrated works. And I'm so happy that I had the chance to read this because a lot of people don't know that she wrote more than Jane Eyre. They think that Jane Eyre was her only novel, which is not correct. And Villette is absolutely amazing, and this was the first time that I started to learn about the male gaze and voyeurism, and I also learned so much stuff reading through this. It doesn't have too many sticky notes because, not gonna lie, this took me a lot to get through. Again, this was so very dense. I actually think it's more pages than Jane Eyre. Yeah, this is like 550 pages. And I'm so happy that I got to read this. Even though Jane Eyre is my favorite novel of all times for its feminist perspectives, Villette is also definitely up there just because it's so unique, and I wish more people would talk about Villette. That's how I'm gonna conclude Villette. I wish more people would talk about Villette. So the final novel that I had to read for my Brontes class was The Lost Child by Carol Phillips, and this is a retelling of Wuthering Heights. I definitely recommend this retelling if you like Wuthering Heights. It starts off with Heathcliff and his journey and his past experiences, and overall I absolutely love this. I don't really read many retellings of classics, but this one was absolutely amazing, and maybe I should read more retellings because this was beautiful, and I'm very happy I read this. Also so happy that it was shorter than the other classics I'd read for this class. This felt like a reward. Anyways, guys, that is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this mess and ramble of a video. And yeah, just hit the subscribe button below and like and turn on your notifs if you want to see more of my face and you want to hear me ramble about books some more. If not, that's totally okay. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day today. See you next time. Bye.